In this video, we're going to be talking about officer versus enlisted. Hey, welcome back, Military Journeyman. If you're new to this channel, my name is Julian. I'm an active duty Coast Guard member, been in for about 6 years now, and my goal for this channel is to help you along your military journey by giving you the best military tips and money-saving hacks. So subscribe so you can keep up to date. So I've been getting a lot of questions about officer versus enlisted and which one would be better for you. Now, I'm going to be breaking down my understanding of officers. Since I'm not an officer, I'm an enlisted guy, but I have been around enough officers. I have really considered going the officer route plenty of times, and I actually am going to be staying enlisted because of the reasons in this video. But just a quick disclaimer: being an officer, there are going to be some really chill officer jobs. There's going to be some very challenging officer jobs. Same on the enlisted side. There's going to be very chill enlisted jobs and some very demanding enlisted jobs. So the stuff that I'm walking you through is just my generalized understanding of the two, officer versus enlisted. So please don't take this for like everything that it's worth. Take it with a grain of salt. Just understand that there are going to be certain jobs out there. And on this channel, because I do like to highlight the benefits, I am going to be getting more officers in this show from different services also, because I think it's also pretty unique to be able to share experiences from other services and their journey, their military journeyman journey, going through and, trying to maybe get the benefits, trying to take on a new skill. So some exciting stuff coming out, guys. Stay tuned on this channel. So as an enlisted member, you're going to be very technical. You're going to be in the weeds, in the field, actually performing the job. If that means that you're having to carry a rucksack, then that's going to be you. If that means you're going to be having to rewire a network, in a network closet, then that's going to be you. If that means that you're driving the boats, that's going to be you. As an officer, though, you're not going to be doing as much technical work. You're going to be a lot more managerial. You are going to have times where you will be the one that is doing the technical work, or you'll be working in part with the enlisted. But as an officer, it's more expected of you to be able to look at the big picture things. So if that means finding out what would be the best way to maybe map out the network, or where should the enlisted people go when they are driving the boats, or if you're in the medical, then maybe it's going to be making sure that the clinic is operating at top performance as opposed to actually dealing with patients. So you have to kind of think of it as you are more behind the scenes as an officer. As enlisted, you're going to be more in the field doing the actual mission. You should all know that as an enlisted, you are not making as much unless you're smart and actually investing. But officers do make more because they are expected to have a little bit more responsibility. And I know responsibility is kind of like a very loose term. There's a lot of responsibility on enlisted members, but for officers, they are more big picture managerial. So when you just think manager, you think more money. Now, the officer corps is a lot more cutthroat. They will just leave you if you aren't able to make the cut. And the cut is when they are looking to promote people. If you're not eligible, or if you're not like one of their favorite candidates compared to everybody else, then they'll leave you. And it's not uncommon for people that come into the officer corps making it maybe 15 or so years, 10 years, and then they just get cut. It is very common for people to just not be able to make it because somebody else is more eligible than them. So it is a lot more cutthroat. You constantly have to be working and striving. You have to prove that it's like, I want to be in this, I really want to do this. And that might mean taking up more like jobs that you don't want to do, things that aren't very desirable. Maybe after work activities, you might have to take on more responsibilities, stuff like that. As enlisted, it is very much more laid back. The biggest thing about making it through an enlisted career is just don't get in trouble and don't get too hurt. So typically you're going to be taking tests, you're going to be doing things, but it's a lot more smooth sailing if you are trying to just stay in as an enlisted member. As an officer, it is a lot more competitive, and you do have to keep that in mind that they could just drop you and you might lose all those benefits that if that's really what you were hoping for. As enlisted, it is pretty easy to stay in. As an officer, you are going to be putting in a lot more hours because you are really just trying to please your supervisor, making them feel comfortable, because their boss is going to be telling them they want things done, and you want it, and the person below them wants to please that person above them. So they're going to be putting in extra hours, doing a lot more due diligence, really trying to make sure that everything's right. Sometimes, that does often trickle down to the enlisted members, but as an officer, you can only expect so much out of your enlisted members before things start going bad. So if they're putting in way too much work, then the quality is going to go down. But as an enlisted, it is typically just going to be minimal hour. You are just doing your job. As an officer, you are going to be putting in a lot more time because there's more projects, there's more things that you have to do in order to stay in. You really have to be proving your worth, proving that you can stay in the officer corps. Enlisted members have a little bit more of a linear path because when you are becoming a technical specialist, being enlisted, you are a specialty expert. Your path is a lot more straightforward. Like, I know where I'm going to be advancing. I know what is going to be expected of me, and I'm just going to be basically filling positions. I'm filling a position. Once I get to a certain rank, then I fill another position at another rank or another job. As an officer, you're going to have a lot more career versatility. So officers are a little bit more fluid until it gets to a certain point where you're expected to have your type of specialty. But even then, you can have kind of like multiple specialties. So as an officer, you might come in, let's say on a boat, and you're going to be the ops boss, the operations boss. But your next job, if you want to be able to do something different, you're going to be having to stretch, and you have to take jobs that are going to stretch you and make you a little bit more of a better, well-rounded officer. As enlisted, you are just, again, you're filling a role. A position opens up, you take the job if you meet the rank. Because you have the rank, you are expected to be able to fill that position. As an officer, you're going to be taking jobs that are really kind of stretching you or trying to niche down on a particular type of skill set that you're trying to acquire. Now, sometimes that does mean that you are going to be pigeonholed, like they want you to go a certain route, or you'll go to a certain school, like to get your master's degree or maybe a second bachelor's, whatever, and they will be expecting you to be able to perform at that type of job that they are leading you towards. So it is, as an officer, you're not really taking like a specific job because you're not really a technical expert. What you're really becoming is well-rounded in different types of aspects of the business, being in the military. An example of this could be like IT. If you're an officer in the IT field, you're dealing. That doesn't mean that you're technically doing IT work. You're probably doing more like the back end, the policies, the strategic planning, and let's say you also have kind of a career path with finance, then you might be doing IT and finance. As an enlisted member, you're not going to be doing IT finance. You're going to be maybe just an IT that does networking or an IT that does cybersecurity. And officers, they are a little bit more fluid. As an enlisted member, you're not going to be expected to get your bachelor's degree or associates and start moving up the education ladder. You just need to be able to do your job and advance. Sometimes that means you really don't even know what you're doing. That does happen. But there are tests that you do have to take when you are an enlisted member to be able to prove that you have the capacity to take another job. But you might be taking more like C schools or like extra classes that are just like technically focused. Like you could imagine these as like being certificates. As an officer, though, it is going to be expected of you to get higher education. You want to have you're going to have your bachelor's degree, and next is probably going to be a master's degree, and sometimes even a doctorate. They do send you to those extra schools. It's not as common, but typically you are going to be expected to have your master's degree at some point in your officer career. So they're really more focused on the education aspect. For officers enlisted, you just need to be able to do your job. That is also a component of advancing. So an officer that does have a master's degree is going to be a lot more competitive than an officer that just has a bachelor's degree. And it is really like that. Like you constantly have to be working towards and working up to be able to beat everybody else, because if you don't beat them, then you get cut. And it is, like I said, it's kind of cutthroat. So these are the types of things that you do have to consider when going officer versus enlisted. Now, for me, it just made sense for me to stay enlisted because I do like what the enlisted side offers. It's a little bit more technical, it is a lot more laid back. So I'm not having officers constantly breathing down my neck telling me like, put in this thing or do this thing, or officers sometimes they have to take jobs that they really don't want. Same as enlisted. Enlisted members do have to take jobs sometimes that aren't very optimal, but it is a lot more laid back and it gives you a little bit more time, and that's really what I was looking for. Because for me, being an investor, being someone that likes to manage time and try to get the most out of what I'm getting, being enlisted for me means that I have more time to be able to focus on my interests, like investing and real estate and the podcasts and this YouTube channel. As an officer, my chances of being able to have a very comfy position that I have right now is going to be a lot more slim. There are going to be those types of jobs. Like, I'm sure we're going to be getting officers on this show where they are just going to school. They do have those sweet jobs, and that's awesome. Good for them. But the chances of getting those things is going to be a lot more challenging, because there's going to be a lot of people that do want those types of jobs. As an enlisted member, the chances of getting something that is a little bit more laid back is going to be a lot more frequent, because there's just a lot more of those types of jobs available. There's commands that aren't constantly maybe having officers or having other people breathing down their necks. So you have to look at this list, you have to look at these things and really consider this if you are planning enlisted or officer, or going, maybe advancing into an officer position. So just take this all with a grain of salt. This isn't this isn't going to be everywhere or every case. But this is just my understanding from what I've experienced, what I've gone through, and my kind of analysis of officer versus enlisted. But I hope you guys like this video. If you did, give it a big thumbs up and consider subscribing if you haven't already. If you like this video, then I definitely recommend checking out this video right here, or keep watching right here. Until next time, peace out.